Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Look here, when you get on the bus, getting ready to transfer, okay, let me explain it like this. When you get shipped from one prison to the other, you got to take a bus ride. Whether they put you in a van or a bus, you leaving, you know what I'm saying, in shackles and chains around your waist and your hands handcuffed and all this and that. And you're usually going to be sitting next to somebody that's headed in the same direction. They might not be going to the same penitentiary as you, but everybody on the bus is being transferred back to or away from some prison or going to the hospital, something to that nature, right? And you don't know who's on the bus with you. You don't know what they did. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what type of reputation they have or anything like that unless you've been on the same compound with them in one place or another, or you heard something about them, or in a lot of cases, you've seen it on the news. And when you recognize somebody's face from the news, at first you don't get it, right? So when I got on the bus, it was this big old heavyset dude, you know what I'm saying? Black dude, heavyset. He looked like he had been working out, but he had this weird look about him, right? And I'm like, dang, I know him from somewhere. And because he was shorter than me, but bigger than me, he's sitting on the window seat. And see, because I'm tall, you know, I got to sit on the aisle seat because my knees, I got to turn them out into the aisleway just a little bit, just so I'll be comfortable. You know what I'm saying? So when I got on the bus, I get past the cage, because they got a cage where they put people that are in protective custody, something is wrong with them or they in danger, so they lock them in the cage. It's like 4 seats. Then you walk past that, and now it's just 2 rows of 4s going all the way back. You know what I'm saying? And then at the end of that, you got a restroom in the back where you can get up from your seat if you need to use the restroom and go. Right? So when I'm getting on the bus, I walk past the cages, and then I see this seat that's on the aisle, and that's what I'm looking for. So I pull up and I sit down. I'm like, whew, man. And I look over at dude, like I say, and I recognize his face. But then, in the penitentiary, you don't just stare at people and all this and that. But after a while, the silence usually breaks. One person or the other says something. But I noticed this dude, he constantly staring straight forward, or he turning and looking out the window. He ain't trying to talk to nobody. And when you on the bus and you heading to a prison, because like sometimes when you get on the bus, you got to stop at other prisons to pick up other people, right? But mostly everybody that's been transferred from one place or another at one time or another, when this is the last stop and everybody on the bus right at that time is going to the same prison. And so that's what we were. This particular stop here was to pick everybody up from different prisons, and everybody's going to the same place, right? And it's a long 4-hour ride to this penitentiary that I was headed at this particular time. So I sit down in the seat, like I say, and shoot, after about 20 or 30 minutes, dude ain't saying nothing to me. I ain't saying nothing to him, but I hear a voice in the back say, Joe T, Joe T. And then at first, I'm like, okay, somebody back here know me. So I had to position and I turn around, because like I say, you got to imagine what it's like to have on chains like this, right? Some of y'all may be familiar with it, but for those of you who don't know, I'm going to explain. You got on a pair of shackles. Shackles, you know what I'm saying, that's the chains. You got the handcuffs basically, but they on your ankles, right? And the chain in the middle of them. So you can't really take a long stride. You know what I'm saying? That keeps you from running. Then you got this belt, a chain belt that they put through the loops on your pants, right? And wrap it around your waist. And then they take up and run another thing through it and put handcuff your hands to that chain belt around your waist, so your hands are sitting right in front of you, right, in your lap, and you really can't move, right? Now, if you got to piss, you got to figure out how to do it, because they're not taking none of that on. So it's best that you go before you get on the bus. So anyway, I heard somebody saying, Joe T, Joe T. So I jump up and flip around, jump up and keep turning around until I can turn all the way around as best I can and see, because they don't like you standing up on the bus unless you going to the restroom. So I looked back, I said, who that is? And then bro called out his name. I said, what's up, bro? I said, what's going on? He said, man, nothing, man. He said, man, come back here. I said, man, ain't no seats back here. He like, yeah. I said, I need an aisle seat. He said, bro, I'll switch so you can come back here. Come back here. So I get up like I'm going to the restroom, and I fly a little bit. I make sure the officer, you know what I'm saying, got his back turned. I get on up, I go back there, and I sit down with bro. I said, what's going on with you, bro? And I really didn't know him like that, but I done heard his name. He done heard my name. He recognized me, you know what I'm saying, all this and that. I said, what's going on with you, bro? He said, man, 6 popping, 5 dropping, all this old kind of stuff, right? And I'm like, bro, you know I ain't on all that old tripping like that. He said, I know. I said, look, what's up, though? He said, man, you don't need to be sitting with dude. I said, well, dude, you talking about the dude I was sitting in the line with? He was like, yeah. I said, what's up with him? He said, man, you ain't seen him on TV. I said, man, that might be where I recognize his face from. He looked familiar to me, bro. He like, yeah, he kidnapped and raped bruh's gal. I said, for real? He was like, yeah. So I looked over, he pointed at bruh. So I looked over at bruh. Bruh is locked in on him. He ain't spoke, introduced himself to me or nothing. He just locked in on him. Now keep in mind, he got handcuffs on, chains, and that, so it ain't really nothing he can do at that moment. But he locked in on him. Stand him down. Ain't saying nothing. I said, what's up, bro? He said, what's up, G? I said, man, you good? He said, I'm gonna be good. I said, man, talk to me, bro. What happened? Now, you keep in mind, ain't no privacy on the bus. But in this little area in the back, they done made sure ain't nobody back there but the affiliations. You feel what I'm saying? And that was just because they wanted it like it. So I'm sitting in the back. I said, bro, talk to me. He locked in. He said, man, as soon as these handcuffs come off, I'm getting him. I said, what's going on, man? He said, man, my cousin, man. My cousin. I said, it was your cousin? He said, my cousin. I said, I ain't talking about no play cousin or no play sister or nothing. He said, Joe T. Look, he turned and looked. He said, Joe T. Man, I said what I said, bro. I said, okay, that's what's up. I said, she okay? He was like, yeah. I said, so they found her, she was good. He said, she wasn't good, but they found her, she was okay. She's still in the hospital? He was like, nah, she's straight, she at home. You know what I'm saying? But she can't sleep, she can't eat. He started telling me about her. And when he started telling me about her, I wanted to keep him talking, you see? I said, what she like to do? He said, she in school. He was like, that's where he got her at. I said, he went to the campus and got her like that? And he was like, yeah, he was on stalking these girls on the campus. And, you know what I'm saying, my cousin happened to be, you know what I'm saying, one of the guys that was walking from some kind of meeting they had that night, you know what I'm saying, in one of the other dorms. I said, yeah, I saw that on TV. Keep in mind, we're whispering back and forth now. Some of the other affiliates, especially some of the Crip dudes, they sitting right there, they like, hey, Joe T. I said, man, we all finna get him, man. As soon as we get, you know what I'm saying, to the penitentiary, right? And they take these handcuffs off, it's going down. I said, man, I feel you. I ain't really telling them I'm jumping in it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying I feel you, right? Because I know they don't want to hear none of this other stuff that I'm thinking. So I got to buy my time. We got 4 hours on this trip, right? So I'm still talking to him. And he telling me all the stuff that she's into and all this and that. She's going to school to be a lawyer, right? She's a prison reform activist type thing, right? She be advocating for people in the penitentiary. And he said, man, she was just working on a case for somebody like him, and then he gonna go and do something like this. I said, dig that. But in my mind, I'm thinking, he didn't know that. He didn't know that. I said, did you talk to your cousin, man, since this happened? And he was like, yeah. I said, what'd she say? She told me to leave it alone, right? Because I told her I was gonna find dude and have him touched up. And here I am on the bus with him. I said, so she don't want you to do nothing about that. He was like, nah. Now, I'm understanding where he coming from. I don't know if I would be strong enough, you know what I'm saying, if somebody did something to one of my nieces, you know what I'm saying, or my cousin, anybody in my family, you know what I'm saying. I just don't know if I would be strong enough to do nothing. I just don't know. But I know in this situation, it wasn't a situation that I had to deal with, but I'm looking at bro, and being in the penitentiary for as long as I have been, and particularly at that time too, I see murder in another person's eyes. I know it when I see it, right? So I'm looking at him, you know what I'm saying? And his actions was gassing up the rest of them. You know what I'm saying? Basically, his actions in being hurt by what happened to his cousin, he was building a permission structure for everybody else, even the other affiliations, to join in on what he wanted to do to dude, right? Look here, in the penitentiary, people can say and think what they want to, right? But depending on the circumstances and the situation, don't nobody even mess around with somebody like that. Period. He was a known predator. He been in and out the penitentiary 3 or 4 times for the same thing. Don't nobody just mess with dude like that. And then, after about an hour and a half, me and bro, we back there politicking and talking. I done got him to talking. He loosening up and all this and that, telling me where he from, where he originally from, why he ended up in Tennessee, all this and that, right? Dude started whistling. The predator started whistling, right? A gospel song. And for some reason, it made every single one of us upset that this dude was whistling a gospel song. So we look up at him and he was like, man, shut up, man. Shut up. I joined in and told him shut up because I knew it was pissing all the guys off. Everybody back there was like, man, you need to shut up, man. You old predator, you old this, you old. They saying everything. So I joined in and told him, man, hey, bro, man, you kill that, right? He looked at me, looked me straight in my eyes, and I seen, look, just like I could see murder in bro's eyes, I saw fear in his, man. And I think what he was trying to do is meditate and focus on the Most High, asking him to protect him. Now, that's just my opinion. I don't know exactly what he was on. And when he looked at me, he could tell I wasn't trying to hurt him, but I was trying to help him. And the only way I knew how, I said, man, kill that, man. Kill that. And he just stopped. Then he turned and started looking straight back ahead. Now, the officers up there, they got them pumps. They look back there, everything straight. Y'all keep it down back here. Then you know, of course, the guys, man, shut up. Ain't nobody listening. You going to drive the bus, man. You know, we sitting back there politicking. So then, one of the brothers, he managed to get a joint out of his pocket. I said, what, man, you tripping. Then they light the thing, right? They passing the joint around. I said, this is not going to end good. Everybody back there smoking. I ain't touching it. Police looking back there. I smell that. Every one of y'all going to get a piss test when we get to the penitentiary. I'm like, oh, Lord, I'm hoping I don't get no contact because I ain't smoking nothing. I quit at that point. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, me and bro still talking. And I said, bro, I understand you wanting to do something. I'm not even totally against it, right? But how far are you trying to take this? Now see, what he don't know is when we get to the penitentiary that we're going, he gonna be under me. So any move he make, I'm gonna have to sanction it one way or the other anyway. Or I can shut him down. But I'm feeling his pain. I'm feeling all of what he's saying, man, because I think about my nieces, my sister, my gal. I feel it. I'm feeling it. But I don't want him to end up with no more time. So I said, look, bro. I said, let's find out what's up with him when we get there. He said, Joe T, this ain't about money. I knew I lost him then when he said that. This ain't about no money. He said, man, this is about what's right. I said, man, GD that, bro. I said, what you in here for, though, bro? I'm trying to find any angle to get him. He said, man, selling dope. I said, dig that. I said, I was taking a long shot here, y'all. I was taking a real long shot here. I said, look. I said, you ain't never done nothing wrong to nobody you sold no dope to? Sold them some bad dope, robbed them, mistreated them, whatever the case may be, tricked off with some gal, you know what I'm saying, or that had a boyfriend or had some kids and all, you just dog them out, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, Joe T, that's part of the game. I said, dig that, man. And then it clicked in my head, right? I knew he wasn't finna want to hear what I was finna say, but I had to say it. I said, listen, we all play different games, man. You see what I'm saying? He was like, yeah, I understand, Joe T. I said, and see, listen to me. When he said, I understand, I almost heard him choke up. I almost heard him choke up. So I knew I had to get him right then because he was vulnerable. He said, I understand, Joe T. I said, his game, it's a sick one. It's a real sick game. He thinks that's how he's supposed to get down. Look at him. He weak, man. Any man that'll do that to a woman is weak. He weak. He don't believe in himself. He think he gotta take it. That ain't nothing straight about that. And you hurting him, beating him up like that, what you wanna do, that ain't gonna do nothing but make it worse for the next victim. You wanna know why? He looked at me then, right? Because when I said the next victim, he started thinking. Right? He started thinking. I said, that ain't gonna do nothing but make it harder for the next victim, because he gonna have another victim. Right? Unless he gets the help he needs. With them, it's not a matter of if but when sometimes. A lot of, but I'm gonna say this, I know a lot of brothers done, you know what I'm saying, that they don't do that, even though that's what the case was. So kudos to them brothers. You feel what I'm saying? But anyway, when he looked at me, I knew I had something, right? So I hit him with this. I said, look, this gonna be hard for you to do, but you have a right to justice. At least your cousin does, right? But it's best that you find another way to deal with that. Because see, this is about you. You thinking that getting him gonna make her feel better. And it might for just a minute. It might. But see, this is about you, bro. This is about you. No, we ain't gonna let him get away with it. We ain't gonna do that. We ain't gonna do that. He gonna have some consequence. And trust me when I say, y'all, when I say consequence, I mean some consequence. Some gonna have to get broke, something. Something gonna have to happen. Because other than that, he ain't gonna walk away. And see, I know a lot of y'all out there sitting there thinking, Lord have mercy, I don't know what y'all on, Joe T, this, that, and the third, doing this and doing that. But I'm telling you, in this world, the world that a lot of y'all is throwing bricks at, trying to get in here and participate in like you're foolish, it's harder than you think. It's things that go on in here that you do not even want to happen to your worst enemy. But those things happen in here to keep order so people can survive it. Because that's what everybody's trying to do. So when I get broad's attention like that, we almost at the spot. The guard tell us, look, we're getting close. Anybody need to use the restroom, go head on, all this and that. Because when we get there, you know, it's going to be dark and y'all going to have to go straight in and we got to get you to your units. You know, we ain't going to have time for all this dilly-dallying. So everybody getting up. So, bruh, notice that the police ain't paying no attention. He eased up there and he sat down right beside dude and he whispered something to him. And we don't know what he's saying, but he aggressive. He all in his ear and you can see him and the spit coming out of his mouth. He hitting him up hard. And I could see the dude, he's scared. He ain't even turned his head to look at him. He's looking straight forward and he dropping his head. So bro get up after about a good 3 or 4 minutes. I'm talking about roasting him. Then he come back. I said, bro, what you say? He said, Joe T, I heard everything you said, man. But I'm going to get him. He said, I ain't going to kill him. I'm going to get him. I said, bro, I said, keep in mind now. Keep in mind. You know, you're not a surgeon. And what I mean by that, you're going to have to find out in the next episode, right? I'm going to tell you what that means about him not being a surgeon. So just tune in to the next episode and get the conclusion to this show. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.